Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Brenda Meller, who's been a great resource to me as far as utilizing and leveraging LinkedIn. So, Brenda, thanks so much. It's good to see you. I appreciate you being on the podcast. MellerMarketing.com, Chief Engagement Officer at Meller Marketing. All right, so you are the LinkedIn guru, and so let's kind of dive in and talk about LinkedIn. Uh, as we're recording this, it's live March 11th, 2025. And so what what does everybody need to know about, some of the key things on how we use LinkedIn today?
I think first of all, thank you for inviting me back. It's always a pleasure chatting with you,
Yes,
Jon.
that's good.
First of all, we just need to think about even if you're not on LinkedIn, people are looking you up on LinkedIn. I think that's really key. You might be spending more time on Instagram or Facebook, and that's where you're more comfortable socially, or that's really where you've been spending most of the time for your business. And LinkedIn is very similar to an online professional directory. So even if you're not super active there, you can build up and optimize your profile so people do look you up. They know a bit about you. They know who you're connected with. They understand the products and the services and the offerings that you have. So even if you've chosen that LinkedIn isn't going to be one of the top networks where you spend your time, neglecting LinkedIn can actually work against you. So make sure that it's updated and optimized there.
Yeah, let's talk about it working against you. Um, you know, can you go into a little bit more detail on that? Because I think there's two things. One, if you're on it and doing nothing, and two, if you're not on it. And so, what is the perception? To me, this is the pattern that I think people go through. I'm pretty confident in this. My business is referral. I get referred to people, and when people are referred to me, one of the first things they do is they go to LinkedIn and they check out my LinkedIn profile because they want to look at where I went to school and where I've worked and kind of get that glance of a resume. But they also want to see how real time I am, and it gives me that credibility. Have I posted recently? Have I posted content? They go from there to my website. From my website, they watch a video or two, download a couple podcast episodes, and then by the time they call me, the conversion is pretty high. But
Mm-hmm.
it always starts with LinkedIn, typically.
Mm-hmm.
And so, can you kind of talk about where LinkedIn, from your perspective, blows in?
Yeah, I think you really nailed it there. And I was almost like following you through. Like, it sounds like you've got a really great sense of what that customer journey is
Yeah.
like. And one
Well,
thing
that's
I
why I just want
would,
to say one thing. I just want to say one thing, and if you can, I don't want to. I want you to have the floor. I don't care about likes per se. I don't care. Not that I don't care about likes. I do, but I don't really care about likes or comments or this. I care that my phone rings, and it does. And I
Mhm.
know LinkedIn is a big piece of that, regardless of how many likes I may get on a piece. Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great point, because who cares if likes and impressions and connections and all that are high numbers? If you're not achieving your business or career goals using LinkedIn, then who cares? What's it all for? If they're vanity metrics to some extent. But to your point of you really understanding what that customer journey is like, I'm going to offer something to your listeners and viewers here, and that is when you're working with customers, new customers that are coming in, ask them the question, "How did you hear about me?" Ask
Yeah,
them, where did you look me up? And you'll probably hear LinkedIn as a part of that conversation. And
yeah,
I love the point that you made, Jon, where they're looking up your LinkedIn profile. They're looking for social proof, and they're
yeah,
also looking for that factual information. Does he look like he knows what he's doing?
yeah,
Does he have recommendations? Does it actually look like a real person, not a bot or a spam account or anything like that? So, our profile can help to support that story, because when we're going to your profile, we've got a question mark. Philip sent me to Jon's profile, so I trust Philip and what he said to me. But when I get to Jon's profile, am I finding what I need for me? And I
yeah,
think that's really key. A lot of people, one of the big mistakes I see them making on their profile is they're writing about themselves. And I want you to keep in mind, it's actually not about you. It's about you as it relates to the audiences that you can serve. So
yeah,
in your about statement, for example, we don't need to hear your whole backstory about your entire life and career and how you left corporate. We really want to know, what are the problems that this person can solve? What are the services that they offer? And then how can I do business with them?
yeah,
Having some type of call, you mentioned your website. Like, is there a way that someone who is not connected to you can leave your LinkedIn profile and visit your website or get an email address without being connected? Because if you're not connected, you don't have the email address, you don't have websites yet. and they may not be ready yet to do business with you, but they're learning more about you. So let's make sure that we have that call to action in there.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about, you mentioned impressions. I don't know if anybody really understands what that means. So I'm hoping you can define it for us.
Yeah. I like to use analogies a lot, John, because I think it helps it
Good.
to
I love
make it a little bit
analogies.
more
Yeah.
relatable. So I'm going to use the analogy here. When we think about impressions on your LinkedIn post, it's kind of like how many cars drove by a billboard on the side of a highway. So advertisers will use this, the number of traffic or number of cars that drive by a billboard, and they price their billboard prices accordingly. If you get a lot of traffic, it's more expensive, etc. So an impression means, it's like a car driving by the billboard. Now they drove by, so they had the chance to see it, but did they read it? And if they did read it, did it register? And is it memorable? We don't know that, but we know that a car drove by. So an impression on LinkedIn is essentially that post appeared in their homepage feed and it scrolled past their eyes at some point. Now, did they pause and read it? And did they digest it? And did it register? We don't know. But we do know that the more cars driving by, the better for the advertiser. The more impressions you get on your post, the more potential eyeballs that you have. And a portion of those people, John, are what I like to call readers. I don't like to call them lurkers or stalkers because that sounds kind of negative, but readers. They will read what you post. They won't ever interact with you, like, comment, etc., because they know that the salespeople will swarm them if they start to do so. But they read and they digest. And to your earlier point, they see that you're active and posting regularly. It makes you a real person. You start to build some trust with them. So those impressions can actually turn into prospective clients for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mind share, and I think that's what a billboard is, right? It's mind share, and so I want to talk about the billboard for a minute. One of the my favorite books of all of last year, I don't know if we've talked about this, is a book called Smart Brevity. It is one of the best books I've ever read. I've read it like 4, 5, 6 times. I love it. I actually have a training that I do called Cut Your Meetings in Half. It's a 4-hour training. It could be an all-day training. I go into companies and I ask them to actually read this book to get their mind ready for the meeting. It's all about saying more with less. Mm-hmm. But one of the analogies they use is you want to be really tight in your messaging as if a car was driving by a billboard, to your point. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so can you talk about on LinkedIn what to post? And so people, when they are driving by your, LinkedIn page and you're building mind share, what should you be posting to get people's attention?
That's a great point. So I like to use the 80-20 rule when it comes to posting. 80% of the time, I'm educating, informing, engaging, sometimes entertaining. 20% of the time, I'm selling. Okay, so it's the reverse of what we think. The 80%. 20% rule due to performance, but I'm using it a little bit in reverse, but I think because it helps you to remember. So if you're posting every single business day, 5 days a week, 4 of those, you should be educating, informing, entertaining, or engaging your audience. 1 of those posts should be selling. So the selling, should be obvious. You're selling a product, a service, an event, things like that. The other things, what I like to do is think about maybe doing a frequently asked question. Somebody asked me a question, I post about my response, or a did you know about LinkedIn? They could be maybe a poll that I'm engaging people in. Occasionally I do something kind of fun. It's like a palette cleanser type of a thing where it's just keeping people engaged on there. So I think you always want to be thinking about, again, just like your profile is not really about you, it's about you as it relates to your target audience. Your post should be seen as valuable for your intended audience as well.
I love it. Let's talk about recommendations. How important are those?
Yeah, I love them, especially if you're self-employed. I think they can help you. You can use them for marketing purposes. What I love about LinkedIn is that they sit on your profile and they're linked to someone else's profile. So if I were to give you a recommendation, and if I haven't yet, I'm going to give one after the show here today, John. But if I were to give you a recommendation and say, John's a great interviewer, he does this really great Think Business Live series. I've been a guest several times. Such a great experience. He does a great job marketing. If you get the chance to be on John's show, definitely do it. Right. So now that recommendation, after you accept it, would sit in your recommendation section on your profile. And then you can screen capture that, feature that as a LinkedIn post, tag me in it and get some marketing in LinkedIn. But then you can also use that on your podcast landing page or maybe in webinars and other events, and where people are talking about booking you as a speaker or as a host or as an MC or things like that. So I like them because it creates social proof. And I think it's different. Did you ever see on like on a website, John, it'll say like, this quote was from Susan in Montana,
Yeah.
and it's not linked. And we don't know. Is Susan a real person? Like, we don't know. But LinkedIn recommendations are clickable to someone's profile. And I could reach out to Susan in Montana and say, hey, Susan, do you know John? Like, I saw that you were on his show. Was it a really great experience? What can you tell me? So I personally do like to receive them. But more importantly, I like to give them because I think it really creates great social media karma. And you gain real estate on their profile when you give them out.
It's a good thing. I'm going to start giving more. I'm going to start giving more. Yeah, you inspired me to say. I don't really think about them a lot, but I'm gonna start doing that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bonus tip on here, which is for recommendations. What I always advise for my clients to do is make sure that you have at least one in both categories, given and received in the current year. Now we're in March, but still 3 months into the year, you can like give and request at least one, but try to have more given than you've received.
Yeah.
And if you have more received than given, like really make an effort into giving out 3 recommendations a week until you get those caught up.
Okay, good. Yeah, I like quantifying and setting a goal. So thanks. Let's talk about the real estate of LinkedIn. It's one of the very first things you taught me so many years ago when I started working with you, is really looking at the profile page and understanding the real estate and where the eyeballs go on a page and how not to waste key real estate spaces. I just want to say this too. I can't remember exactly, but I think I don't remember where I met you, but I know when I met you, I either met you at this point or worked with you as a coach, as my LinkedIn coach, to help me really figure out LinkedIn. And I feel like every couple of years, I get a refresher, which I think I probably need one right now. So
yeah, I think maybe you're due for one now.
yeah. So yeah. Talk about kind of the real estate and where people should be paying attention.
Yeah. So I think most important thing is like the top of your profile. You've got a current photo, one that's been taken in the last 5 years. Get ready for this. 5 years ago was 2020. So if your photo is older than 2020, get a new one. We want to look current. We want to look progressive. We want to make sure that we look like we look like today. Also, your header image, similar to that billboard analogy, billboard on the side of a highway, they don't leave those billboards up forever. They're changing those billboards out. Now they're like digital, so they're rotating in every 20 seconds. But in terms of your header image, that background image on your profile, I always recommend, John, that you change it at least once a year, if not quarterly. Now, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I change mine at least once a month. Sometimes weekly if I'm promoting a webinar or a new checklist or something else. I have some evergreen messages I rotate in there as well. But the reason being, you have people that are repeat visitors to your profile. So if they're coming back to your profile and they've already seen the image, they're going to ignore it. But if there's a new message or something different up there, they're going to like, oh, okay, let's take a look at that. So I think it's really important to focus on the top elements of your profile. The goal is to keep the right people reading and to bring them down on the profile. And there's certainly other elements in there, but I think the top of the profiles are really the most important.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. All right, let's talk about how often to post on LinkedIn. That seems to be a big thing. How often and what type of content. It seems to me that many people have a hard time figuring out the type of content. I think ChatGPT and AI tools are making it a lot easier to have kind of a back and forth conversation on even ideas, or taking something like a sentence and making it grammatically correct so people can feel a little bit more confident about that. But what types of things, and you talked a little bit about the 80-20, but what other types of things should people be thinking about posting?
So I'll start with kind of frequency of posting. How often should people be posting on LinkedIn? You should be posting at least once a week minimum. That would be my recommendation. But I want to make sure we're not just getting stuck into focusing so much on what you're posting, because I would say posting and network engagement is a two-sided coin. And if you want to get better results for your posts, meaning more reach, more impressions, likes, comments, those types of things, you've got to be paying it forward and spending some time in the homepage feed every single business day, engaging with others, building up that social media karma, knowing that when you do so, many of those people are going to pay it forward and back to you. So when you're posting, they're going to be more likely to engage with you. So if you're posting once a week, the reason that frequency is important is it's helping to keep you top of mind for your network. One of the most recent stats I heard, Jon, was that 49% of LinkedIn's 1 billion members go on LinkedIn once a month or more. So the flip side of that is 51% of people don't even go on once a month. So
Yeah.
if that's the case, then if you're not posting weekly, if you're posting very sporadically or not at all, you're missing them when they come into the platforms. So getting into the homepage feed regularly, at least once a week, is really key. And
Yeah.
then you want me to give you a couple ideas on what people could post as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
So I'm going to start with, I'm going to meet people where they are, because posting on LinkedIn may feel very intimidating if you've never posted before, or if it's been like forever. Maybe you've left your corporate job and now you're posting as someone who's self-employed and you're putting yourself out there to the world. I'll give you like the easiest thing to do is to find someone else's post on LinkedIn, either a person or an organization, and do a repost. That's the easiest thing. At the bottom of the post, there's this little arrow icons, click on repost, and you can just push it out as a repost. That's the easiest thing to do. Even better than that would be repost with your thoughts, where you add some commentary to it. Maybe you repost today's show, for example, and you say, just listen to a great episode with @Jon Dwoskin and @Brenda Meller, tag us in the post. And here are 3 of my key takeaways. So reposting something from someone else, but adding some value to it, like summarizing what you heard in the show. I do like your thoughts about using your favorite AI tool to help you with posts, especially if you struggle with this whole concept of content
Yeah.
creation. What should I share? And what you can do is just go into your favorite tool, whether it's Chat GPT, I use Gemini, I know people use Claude, and type in, like, tell your tool, I am a LinkedIn coach who is trying to um, educate and reach people who are self-employed about how to use LinkedIn effectively. Give me 5 ideas on things that I could post about on LinkedIn. And it'll give you 5 ideas. And then maybe you take one of those and you say, okay, I'm going to post about understanding the LinkedIn algorithm. Give me a couple of concepts that I could cover in a post about this, or write a sample post for me, for example. Now, the caution there, Jon, is don't use AI as a total replacement. You want to make sure it sounds like your voice.
Yeah.
Like, I would
Totally.
never use the phrase treasure trove, and that one always comes up in
Yeah.
like the summary. So make sure that it sounds like your voice. And then my other caution is don't use it as a replacement for engaging with people. Like, I see a lot of these services now that are sprouting up and they look like they're AI generated comments. So if we're doing AI generated posts and AI generated comments, are we just going to get to the point like real people are never interacting on LinkedIn, and then we're not going to trust the network, right?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Talk about the Power Hour with Brenda Meller. If someone goes to your website, Meller Marketing, you can download a free LinkedIn checklist and get started with a Power Hour by Brenda Meller.
Yeah. So a power hour is a 1 hour LinkedIn coaching session with me. We do this virtually on Zoom. I record the phone call so you can watch a playback again. And basically there's 2 paths that I work with on my clients when we get into the call. One is if you have specific questions to cover. And sometimes I have clients, they're like, okay, they come in and they've got like 5 to 10 questions. Here's the things I want to go through. Others will come into the call and I'll say, if you don't know, if you don't have specific questions, just tell me what are your LinkedIn goals? And then we'll look at your profile together and I'll give you some pointers on what needs to be done. And I used to call these just LinkedIn coaching sessions. And I had so many people over the years say, being in a coaching session with you is like drinking from a fire hose, which can
Yeah.
be a little bit like an overwhelming analogy. I like to think about it as a power hour. You're going to get a lot of insights in that hour that are going to be really powerful, that are going to help you to supercharge your LinkedIn results. And it's all one-to-one. So this is specific to you. This isn't like cookie cutter recommendations. Again, going back to that point of, it's not about getting likes and impressions. It's about reaching your LinkedIn goals, right? Whether it's supporting your business or your career. So I like to understand when I do a power hour with a client, like, ultimately, what are your goals for using LinkedIn, and
Yeah.
how are you using it now? And, sometimes people have, I'm not doing anything right now. Like, I'm not even sure where to get started. It feels overwhelming. Or they might say, I've been on LinkedIn for years and I'm just not getting results. I can look like, and within like seconds, I can tell you where your problems lie. Often it's just lack of engagement or using LinkedIn selfishly for yourself and not really returning the favor and participating in network discussions. But it really does depend on the person.
Yeah. Well, I think I've had a bunch of those power hours, and I can tell you they are Think Community. They are just packed with great content, and there's really no fluff. I mean, it's you do your homework, studying the site, giving solid recommendations, easy ways to kind of engage and move within the LinkedIn world. So I think it's great. I think it's great. I want to talk about one more thing before we finish. The LinkedIn newsletter.
Mhm.
I think it's something that people don't know about or even think about. So can you
Yeah.
chat about that?
Yeah, so your LinkedIn newsletters are available to anyone on the platform. It's kind of a hybrid of of a blog. So if you enjoy writing, if you have blogs on your website, you can certainly repurpose those into LinkedIn newsletters. And from a layout perspective, it's essentially a blog. There's a header image, a title, and body, and you can put links and all kinds of great things. People can comment on it. The newsletter element, what happens is you create a newsletter itself and you have a banner image and a name for it. The first edition that you publish gets pushed out to all of your first level connections and followers, and then they have the option of subscribing. If they subscribe, what happens is they'll get notified both on the LinkedIn platform and then through their email as well. So it actually pushes that edition out to their email. And
Yeah.
I think the settings they used to do it daily. Now they're doing it like weekly. And there's a way that you can opt out if you don't want to get those in there. But it's kind of a hybrid of an email newsletter and a blog. The difference with your email newsletter, if you're managing your own through like a Constant Contact or any of those types of site, MailChimp, etc., you don't get email addresses from your subscribers on a LinkedIn newsletter, but you can see who they are. And if they're not first level connections, there's a great opportunity to connect with them there.
Yeah, I think it's a great tool. I did it a while ago. I have I think close to 1,900 people who have
Mhm.
proactively opted in, and so it's just one great tool. I think that people don't know about, so it doesn't even get done. But when I tell people about it, they really love it. They really love it.
Yeah.
All right, Brenda, quick speed round. Book that you've read that's had an impact on you.
Gosh, I go back to Profit First, Mike Michalowicz.
Uh,
If I could give a second book, could I give a second book real quick?
yeah, of course.
Diane Darling, She Said It. For those of you who are always quoting only men in speeches, presentations, things like that, it's a book of quotes from women. So, really great resource.
What's it called?
She Said It.
Okay, I'm gonna buy that
Mhm.
for my daughter for sure, and myself.
There you
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
When you've reached the end of what you know, reach out and find experts to help you.
Yeah, I love it. Finish this sentence. Somebody's feeling overwhelmed about LinkedIn. One small thing they can do today to get started is
Spend 15 minutes in the homepage feed, scroll through, see what other people are posting about, and engage when you see people that you know.
it's great. Tell people who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you, Brenda.
Great. Well, I help the self-employed, I help executives, and I help organizations with their company and personal goals on LinkedIn. To learn more, best place is to go to my website, mellermarketing.com. That's MELL, mellermarketing.com. Alternatively, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, if you go to my profile, you're going to see the follow button. If you do want to connect with me, just go on the more button or the three dots, click on that, and mention that you heard me here on Jon's show.
Great. Brenda, I can't thank you enough. I learn so much every time I talk to you. I appreciate you taking time to be on on the podcast. I think community, LinkedIn is such an important tool, and there are the occasional people who say, "I hate social media. I'm not on dot dot dot." If you're in business, in my opinion, I'm a business coach. You're a LinkedIn coach. In my opinion, LinkedIn is a must and something that you need to take seriously. We're in a time right now where attention spans are very low. And we need to meet people where they are, which is something you said, and where they are, many of them are on LinkedIn. It is still, in my opinion, LinkedIn holding a high bar of business. There's not a lot of fluff. It's serious people talking about serious things, helping people grow. And so really spend time on LinkedIn. You can spend hours and hours and hours and hours trying to figure it out yourself, or you can call Brenda, and in an hour, in her power hour, she can really help you accelerate. If you just quantify, ask yourself this question: in 1 hour, can I learn enough about LinkedIn to take my LinkedIn to the next level, to maybe
Mhm.
generate one extra lead, one extra referral, one extra deal? That's a question you need to ask yourself. I've answered it for myself, and the answer is yes. So Brenda, I can't thank you enough. I think this is such a great tool. You'll have to come back. It's been a bit, so you'll have to come back again, and we can dive into maybe some more granular topics. You can reach Brenda at mellermarketing.com. If you want to talk about any business coaching, you can reach me at jondwoskin.com. Brenda, any last thoughts?
No, this has been a lot of fun. I don't know how many times I've been on your show, Jon, but I always enjoy the conversation. A pleasure. And thank you again for having me back. I'd be
Yeah,
happy
thank
to come
you.
back anytime.
Good. Thanks so much.